guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video is about taking the leap to start a business. This video is quite a general video, so I'm hoping that it applies to a variety of business types. It will also apply to catering and like cakes, baking, all of that, because that's the background that I'm from, but I wanted it to be accessible to everyone. I recently watched an interview which I really want you guys to watch because it was very, very enlightening and I resonated a lot with Grace, and it is the Bartlett podcast. So if you go on YouTube and search Grace Beverley and Stephen Bartlett, you'll be able to find it, and it's basically about how she started her business, and I think it's called like something like how she became a millionaire. I'm not quite sure like for certain, but if you just type in their names it will come up straight away. And they basically just talk about how she started her business, the struggles, the mindset that you need to have, and I just resonated a lot with it, and I really wanted to talk to you guys and kind of share my thoughts and give you my advice for taking the leap, and hopefully it will be helpful for you guys. Before we get into the video, I just want to quickly say two things. First, the merch is now available, so it's now on the website, it's now live, so you can go and check out and actually buy the merch if you want to. There's hoodies, t-shirts, and there's also art prints, so yeah, feel free to go and check that out. It's www.sweetthingsbyamy.co.uk. And the podcast is coming out tomorrow. So the introduction podcast is already on the Spotify because I wanted to have it available for you guys to go and follow. So you can go and follow the podcast ready for tomorrow's episode, and that is an episode about business. I haven't decided yet because I'm filming it this afternoon, but I'm hoping it's going to be about an hour long, and we're going to be discussing business related things. And there's also going to be a cake dilemma series coming up where you submit your dilemmas and just like experiences, things that have gone wrong, things that have gone right, and then I can just give my advice and thoughts on them. And yeah, so if you want to go and follow the podcast, it is the Cake Diaries on Spotify, and I will be on the face of the cover, so you'll be able to know which one it is. But yeah, so make sure you go and follow that, and then there'll be another episode coming out tomorrow, which is the first like proper episode. The one that's on there currently is just published mainly so that you can see the podcast, but also so that you just get an introduction of what it's going to be like. But yeah, so that is coming tomorrow, but we're going to get right into the video because that is all the announcements for today. So I have my book here. Just a quick note, how gorgeous is this book? It's from Wilko's, and I feel like I've got my own burn book out of Mean Girls. I absolutely love it. But we have our notes, there's quite a lot to get through. They're all in bullet points, so hopefully, you know, easy to understand, just chilled conversation about starting a business. So in order to take the leap to start a business, there's various things that come into it, and they were sort of discussing on this podcast that some of it is due to necessity and some of it is due to just wanting to do something but not necessarily having the guts to do it. So I wanted to discuss this because this is very relevant to me. So for those of you that don't know, I've only been running this business since June last year, and that was because I was a credit controller and I have trained in accounting, so I'm fully trained, AAT like qualified, all of that, but I went to a credit control team when I came back from volunteering in Africa, and I was in accounts payable before, so I paid invoices and it was all sort of hunky-dory, easy work. And then I went into the debt collecting side, and for those of you that don't know, it can be very stressful, especially when COVID hits and no one's got any money to pay you. So it just got very, very stressful, and the workplace wasn't that healthy, I don't think. But yeah, like apart from that, I just wanted to leave basically, and it was out of necessity that I was like, well, I either leave and have no job, or I try something, and if it works, it works, if it doesn't, it doesn't. So that's why when a lot of people say to me, I get so many messages saying like, how did you know you'd make enough money to survive every month? How did you know you'd get customers? And it's like, I didn't. I just took the leap because I was in need of money, and I was so desperate to leave my job because like I wasn't sleeping, none of that. So I think it really does depend on your situation as to whether you actually take the leap, because again, I get so many messages from people that say they're thinking about starting a business but they haven't done it yet, and some of them might never actually start it, and that there's nothing wrong with that, but it really just depends where your mindset is and also your situation, because that really plays a part in it. So we're going to work our way through these bullet points. So the first one is, do you have time? a lot of people underestimate the amount of time that starting your own business has, or like takes up. I probably work every day. Like, I don't have a specific day off. Any days that I do have off, I'm answering cake inquiries, I'm replying to comments on YouTube, I'm doing other admin, buying ingredients on my days off. Like, there's so many things that come into it. Anything to do with my website, obviously people can buy stuff on my website, again, any day of the week. So if they have any queries, if someone purchases something, I need to add it to my order log. So I do that all on my sort of days off. So it really just depends if you have the time to put into it. It also depends what you want it to be, because you could have 3 hours a day to put into your business and it might make a comfortable income. But if you want it to be this big business and you've got big dreams for it, which I definitely do for mine, then I need to be putting in, you know, 10 hours a day, and that's what it takes. And it's really, like, it can be stressful at times and it is a lot of work. Like, I don't leave my phone alone. Half the time people probably just think, like, my family probably just think I'm on my phone, but a lot of the time it's like looking for new cake ideas, replying to messages, replying to emails, checking my website, updating listings, editing photos, like Instagram posts. All of it is so time consuming. So you need to make sure that you are fully invested in it, and that it's not just something that you want to do because everyone else is doing it. Because it sounds harsh, but baking businesses especially, a lot of people have started them. I know I was one of them that started in lockdown, and it was the fad. Like, everyone was doing it, and I sort of did it for a couple of weeks, and then while I was still working, I was like, actually, I really enjoy this. It's less of a like, I want to just do it because everyone else is doing it. It was more because I actually enjoyed it, and then that's why I started it. And I've seen so many people that are now stopping their businesses, and some of them I'm not even sure if they registered, but they're all now going back to work, which there's, again, nothing wrong with. But they obviously realised that it wasn't something that they wanted to do permanently, and it was just for lockdown. So you want to make sure that it's like a definite decision, because when you're changing your life so much to like leave a job or to put money into this business and register it and all of that, you want to make sure that you actually want to do it, and that you have the time to do it. The next one is that you've got the confidence to do it. This one is really a big player, I think, in this, because, like I say, so many messages from people that are worrying, they're doubtful of how much money they'll make. And if I'm completely honest, I just wanted to leave my job. I didn't really care how much money I earned, because I just wanted to leave. I was like, if I earn like £200 a month, it's gonna be, at least it'll be less stressful than what I was doing before. So it got to the point where I was just so desperate to leave that I would take any wage, which some of you might be able to resonate with. You might be wanting to leave your job and you're thinking, as long as I can pay my bills, which mine are only £400 a month, I'm thinking, well, as long as I earn £400 a month, I can pay my bills. Like, I'm not worried about anything else. And that was out of necessity. If there isn't that like eagerness there, then sometimes you will never do it. And I think that is a lot of people's issue, is if they're in a job which pays them well and it's not bad, they will happily still work there, but they would prefer to run their own business if they had a choice. A lot of people won't do it because they think to themselves, well, I'm in a very cushy position, I've got a good wage, I don't mind my job, it's not like I hate it, and I'm comfortable, I know how to do this job, I'm not working 12 hours a day. So there are a lot of things that come into it, but you need to weigh up whether you want to stay in that job for the rest of your life or you don't. It's literally as simple as that. And I think that's why I wanted to call this taking the leap, because it is a leap. Like, a lot of the time you are making a very big decision, especially if you have kids. Like, luckily for me, I don't have any dependents. If you have a partner, if you have kids, you do have a lot more to think about in that sense, which luckily for me I didn't. So it meant that I could sort of think for myself and not for anyone else, which sounds really selfish, but I kind of had to think for myself because I feel like I was going stir crazy working in my old job. But yeah, you have to think for yourself, but also make sure that you can cover yourself. Although I did take this leap and I didn't know how much money I was going to earn, I did work out my bills. I did cancel things that weren't essential. So there are ways that you can cut costs. Make sure that when you're starting your business, you're not spending on unnecessary things and you are buying things that you need to start the business. Also be smart with how much money you earn. Like when it comes to stock, you can, because it's likely that there is a labour cost, so say something costs £10 and then you charge 20, well that £10 might be the hour of your labour. So what you can do is when you make that 20, you can then buy 2 of the things that you sold. And then when those 2 sell, then you can buy 4. So you spend the profit and put it back into the business so that you continue to grow as a business, and that's usually how it works. You have to put a lot of money into your business for it to grow, and if you want it to stay the same, then it can stay the same. But if you have aspirations for your business to grow, then you want to be able to have that mindset where you can plan it and put the time and effort into it to make it grow. The next thing, like I've been saying, is necessity. A lot of the time, if it's not necessary for you to do something, you won't. I find that my most motivational moments are when I think to myself, right, I've bought all this stock, I need to make the money back from it because I don't want it just sitting around. So then I'm sat there advertising it, I'm making TikToks, Instagram posts, I'm, you know, like with my molds and things like that, whenever I'm like, right, I've just got a delivery, I need to make sure that I'm promoting this because otherwise it's just going to be sat there. You want to make sure that you're getting that money back that you're spending. And also, like, if you're leaving your job, you're going to be more motivated to start something because you need the money, whereas if you are leaving a job to start something else, then you're going to be worried about that pay decrease. But what I would say for that is try and go part-time. If you really want to start a business, whatever it is, try and go part-time, do it in your free time, make it your hobby, and then if you really like it, then you can turn that hobby into a career, and then hopefully you'll be earning enough money to actually leave your job and do that without having to worry about it. So that's what I'd say in terms of if you're worrying about money, if you have a job already that you are happy to stay in, it's not like you need to leave, whereas for me it was more that I needed to leave, so I didn't really mind how much money I earn. So it, like I say, it depends what your situation is. The next thing is doubt. What I would say to this is do it for yourself. Like, I cannot stress that enough. I know it's like a broken record, but I do get a lot of messages about stuff like this. Everything that I'm covering in this video, I get a lot of messages about. And one of them is my family don't believe in me. They think that it's just a hobby. They don't want to pay me because they don't think my skill is good enough. And what I would say is prove them wrong. Like, I'm going to be completely honest, my first few cakes were not great. Like, they looked okay. There wasn't, you know, that much wrong with them. They just needed a bit of perfecting, but that's completely okay for someone that's literally started like a month before. But honestly, like, the cakes I make now, I am proud of. Like, ever since probably the new year, I've been really like upping my game with decorating, and they have just got even better. And I know that sounds like I'm really big-headed, but you have to be able to hype yourself up, because obviously not everyone else is going to be able to do that for you. Some people will hype you up and they'll praise you and say when you're doing really well, but you need to know when you are doing well. And if you look at your business and you go, no, I think I'm doing really well with this, I think it's going to go somewhere, I've got big dreams for it, then do it. Don't worry about what anyone else thinks. And if people say that they don't want to pay for your cakes, for example, because that is the top one that I get, then just prove them wrong. Get customers who will pay, and then they'll be shown, okay, people do want to pay for their cakes, and maybe me as a family member or a friend, I should be more than happy to pay for their cakes because everyone else is. Like, a lot of the time it takes you to prove someone wrong for them to then realise that you were going somewhere with it. It wasn't just a phase, especially with lockdown and a lot of people starting various different businesses. I think a lot of people do think they're phases. So if anyone is in doubt, then just prove them wrong, because you got to remember, they're not the ones doing the work, you are. So if they don't believe in you, it doesn't really matter, because you're the one that's got to put in the work. So as long as you believe in yourself to start this business and work at it and build it and, you know, let it grow into this amazing business, then as long as you are fully invested in it, it really doesn't matter, because you're not financially reliant on anyone else, because you're starting this business for you. This is me assuming, but like, I'm not financially reliant on anyone. So just make sure that you're doing it for you and don't do it for anyone else. And that comes also into play with the type of business that you open. If you think to yourself, I want to open a fashion business, but, you know, like a clothing brand, but you think, well, I think other people would want me to do this. Well, you know, whatever business you want to do, however big you want it to be, whatever dreams you have for it, do it for yourself, because you're the only person that can make yourself do it. So as much as other people can support you and say how great your business is, they're not doing the work. So you really do have to be like your number one supporter, and just make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, because yeah, a lot of the time no one's going to be there to push you along. You have to make yourself do the work. So yeah, just make sure you're doing something that you want to do. And this goes for when you're sat in a job and you think about starting a business. I've always wanted to be my own boss, always. Ever since I got an apprenticeship, I loved like working at the council and all of that. There was nothing wrong with that job that I had, which was before I went volunteering. But I just always wanted to be this like free spirit that was able to make my own hours, and that kind of started when I went volunteering, because as soon as I went volunteering, I was my own boss. I was away for 3 months in another country living there, and I was just like, you know, I'm doing what I want, I'm living my life. And then I came back to reality, and I was like, oh, I need to get a job. And that kind of was just when I was like, I don't want to. And I did 2 different jobs, one was for 6 months and one was for a year, and both of them I was just like, I'm not happy, I don't want to be doing this. And all of my, if not all of my siblings, I think bar one, are all self-employed. So yeah, actually one of them works for the council, but all of the others are self-employed, including me. So it just shows you we're all very independent people. We all like to be our own bosses, and we're all starting our own businesses, growing them into these amazing things. So yeah, I just make sure that you're not staying in a job because you think you have to. Just, yeah, do what you want to do. And also, if you've got the qualifications, you can always fall back on it. Like, that's what I did. I've got my accountancy qualifications, so like, I always say this to the younger crowd that watch me, but make sure that you're doing your GCSEs, make sure you do all the qualifications that you have to do. I've obviously left school, so I'm not sure if A-levels are now compulsory to stay to 18. I think it is, but just make sure that you get all of those. Even if you do cakes on the side whilst you're still in school learning, just make sure that you get those, because then it means that you've got something to fall back on, providing, you know, something went wrong. You do have qualifications to be able to get another job, which is what I do. I've got accountancy qualifications. I can go and get a reasonably paid job I don't want to say when, but if anything went wrong, I would be able to have something to fall back on. So yeah, make sure that you have some qualifications, because that always helps you out in the future. Next thing is that you have the ideas to put towards the business. So I would say that you have to be a little bit of a creative person, or you have to be in a partnership with someone creative. So some people start businesses together, some people start them on their own. I am the admin, the creative side, the cake maker. I am everything all in one, marketing, everything. If you have particular strengths which you like, and then there's certain things which you just can't do, then you might find that you need to partnership with someone that is better in those areas, and then they can obviously help you grow the business, and they can focus on those areas and you focus on yours. I personally, like, this sounds again a little bit big-headed, but I don't think I need anyone to do any of that for me. I think I manage quite fine on my own. Obviously, as I expand, I will need to ask for help, but at this point I think I'm alright on my own. And some of you may find that you are able to do everything yourself, and that is one of the key traits which is really good for starting a business, because if you're able to be self-sufficient, because one, it saves you money being able to do everything yourself, because you're not having to employ people, and and also just outsource it in general. But I find that you learn a lot of things when you start your own business. So if you've got the traits where you think, you know, I'm really creative, so I can come up with all these ideas, I'm dedicated to put in all the time that needs to be put in and all the hard work, then I don't see any issues that you would have, because you learn so much along the way. Like, I learned how to create a website, I learned how to make things on Word, Excel, PowerPoint, you know, all of these like techie things that I never used to do that much of, I've now learned just because I was on my own. I had to, I wanted to save money, and I taught myself how to do it. It's completely doable. So yeah, make sure that you've got the ideas and the skills to actually put into the business. But like I say, it's all very learnable. A lot of the time you can learn a multitude of things off of YouTube. A lot of the time I just type something in and I watch a 10-minute video and I know how to do it. It's so easy these days to just find a tutorial on how to do something. So one thing that people don't talk about, which was mentioned on this podcast in detail, is about failures. And it's quite normal to not want to talk about them, but I feel like we kind of need to normalise it a bit, because it's the same with me. I get people asking how I get my cakes the way that I do, and you know, how I grew my business to this point, and they sometimes, they don't mean it, and I don't take any offence, but sometimes it sounds like they think that you've you know, you've started at this point and your cakes were perfect from the beginning, or you know, they look the way they are from when you started, and it's like, no, that's taken a lot of time and effort to get to that point. And I think it is common for people not to talk about their failures, and it is embarrassing. You obviously don't want to talk about them, but that's also why I wanted to do that series on my podcast, Cake Dilemmas, because I wanted to be able to discuss with people about dilemmas that come up, experiences, bad experiences, and just kind of give my thoughts and advice, and hopefully kind of normalise things going wrong, because they do go wrong, and you have to be able to learn from them and then make it a better business in the long run. I used to be a very like negative person. I would take everything to heart. Obviously I have my bad days in terms of like my attitude, maybe towards like other people, but I mean, we all do. But in terms of like my business head, I will be upset about something for about half an hour if something goes wrong. Like the other day, here's a good example. I mixed up the labels on 2 postal boxes. So bearing in mind the delivery is £5, so they went to the wrong places. One was gluten-free, one was an Easter tray, so completely the wrong things. It's not even like they were 2 Easter trays and they could have swapped. So they went to the wrong places, and the gluten-free person couldn't eat the Easter tray because it wasn't gluten-free, and the other person didn't want to eat the gluten-free because they're not gluten-free. So they both went in the bin, which was, I hate wasting stuff, so that was a little bit upsetting, because, you know, it got wasted. And so that was number one, because even if they could just send it back to me and I would eat it, because I just hate waste, but it's just unfortunate. So that was £10 worth of delivery. I had to remake the items, and then I had to send them out, and obviously there was a delay. I think one of them went out 2 days after, and then the other one went out a day after. So obviously there was a delay. They got them on the Tuesday and they were sent on the Friday, so they had already waited the weekend to get it because it was bank holiday weekend. And then I had to send them out again, and they took another, so it was probably about a week since I posted it, that they eventually got it. And you know, luckily they got them, they loved them, that was fine. But that is one thing that went wrong, and if you really think about it, this was why I was so annoyed. It was not even like the orders were wrong. I made the right things. I just put the wrong postage label on the outside of the box. That is it. The smallest mistake, and it made such a difference. It cost me a little bit of money out of my own pocket, and I ended up having to send the parcels tracked 24, which is also more expensive. Obviously it was my fault, so that's completely fine to have to spend the money, but I just wanted to mention it because a lot of people think that nothing goes wrong, things go perfect, and yeah, that happened. So that was a bit soul destroying, because I've never had that happen before, and it's just not nice to do that to a customer either. But yeah, so things do go wrong, and that was really annoying for me because it was for the sake of such a small error. It's not even like I made someone the wrong thing. I literally just put the wrong labels on. And yeah, such a small thing, but it made such a big difference. And I was annoyed for about half an hour, and I was like shouting annoyed, like not at anyone, just like at myself. I was just like, oh, I was like really annoyed. And I was like, oh, that's so stupid. Like, why did I do that? That's so stupid. I always check what happened. And it got to about half an hour later, and I was like, right, snap out of it. We got to get on with work. We got to, you know, move on from it. And then I sent out the parcels, and as soon as I sent them out, like the redos, I was just like, right, weight lifted off my shoulders. I'm moving on, and that was it. But one, no one talks about failures, which obviously they're not going to because they're not great. And two, you need to be able to deal with them. And I never used to be like that. I used to, you know, something would go wrong and I would be upset the whole day and it would ruin my day. And they were talking about this on the podcast. They were saying that we aren't built to take the amount of stress and criticism that we do, because time has moved on so much from where we used to be, that, you know, you've got social media where people can criticise you at any point for doing the simplest of things. Maybe it was wrong, maybe it was right, or maybe it was just in between, nothing in particular. But you can just get criticised for anything these days, and we're not built for that. There's so many areas that can go wrong, and stress and anything like that, so you do have to build up a tolerance. It's not going to come straight away, but you just need to, if you get stressed about things and if you worry, try and make it a positive and make a conscious effort, because I never used to be able to take, it's not that I couldn't take criticism, I'd take it perfectly fine, but then in my own space, when that person wasn't there, like say it was a bad review, then I would be upset in my own space. I wouldn't be upset at them. And this goes for bad reviews, it goes for things going wrong in business, and yeah, it's just not talked about, but it's not something that we're built to do. So you do have to build up a tolerance, and when things go wrong, just try and move on straight away from it. It sounds like I'm making it really easy, but it isn't easy, and yeah, it took me a while to do that. But I used to have to do a conscious effort to, like, make a conscious effort to do it. Like, I would be upset and I'd be like, right, no, we're going to be more positive today. It's just one of those things. But then eventually it comes to second nature, and you manage to get over things quicker. And as a business, that's something that you need to do, because the more you grow, the more likely you are to get the odd bad review, because you're never going to please everyone. Like, that is guaranteed. Even if your products are amazing, you will never please everyone. Unfortunately, that's how it works. And yeah, you just have to learn to deal with it. And as the business grows, you're going to have more customers, which means that you're more likely to have criticism. So yeah, you just need to learn how to be able to take it, because yeah, that is something that we are not built to do. And again, a lot of people post on like cake forums and things like that. They post, you know, I got my first bad review, I don't know how to deal with it. I am planning to do a how to deal with bad feedback or reviews video, because I wanted to give some advice on what to offer, because a lot of people straight away offer full refund, don't even ask for the cake back, like completely kind of go really out of their way when it might not necessarily be their fault. So I wanted to do a video on that, because there are certain situations where if it's, say, undercooked, you want to be able to give a refund, but if it's not your fault, then a lot of people as a new business would jump to, you know, making the customer happy. But sometimes you need to be aware that that might not be the best method, because if it isn't your fault, then you're going to be out on a lot of money if you do that every time someone gives a bad review. So yeah, I plan to do a video on that, because I think that that's quite an important topic and a lot of people don't know how to handle it, so I will be doing a video on that. The next thing that I've got down is to learn what works and learn what doesn't, and then to capitalise off of it. So this is something that I've actually done quite well, I would say. So you need to try various things, and this goes for any business, and you want to make sure that you test out different products, test out different, say, cakes, and whichever people find popular and they like, then just make more of that. or do more of that. So whatever it is, and I do that with my spreadsheets and with any like products that I sell, is that I know that it works and I know people like it, and like the spreadsheets especially, it took me a lot of time to make those spreadsheets, and obviously now I capitalise off of it because it's something that people like and it's a spreadsheet that people buy all hours of the day. So in order to capitalise off something the most, it needs to be the most efficient way of doing something, but also makes the most money. So I will maybe do a video on this because it is a very like complicated thing, but basically things that you make once and you resell are very good things to capitalise off, and it doesn't sort of discredit your time because you've spent a lot of time doing it. It's something that someone else can't do. So even if you make it once or you make it 10 times but then you sell it 100 times, that is still your time that you put into that and your knowledge to do that someone else can't do, but that's something that you can capitalise off because it is something that's very efficient, especially things like PDFs, digital files. I know some people sell art prints, which I'm actually thinking of getting into because I really like all the merch prints and stuff like that, and I'm like creating my own thank you cards, so I was thinking about selling those. So think of it this way: you make that print once and then it gets sold as a PDF file, and PDFs are sent automatically. I don't do anything when I sell any of my PDFs, they automatically go to the customer. So that saves you time by doing that, and it's something that you can capitalise off because you've already made it before it's sold. So it's not like you're making it every time you sell one. So yeah, you want to have a little think about what type of business you're in, because there are varieties to whatever business you're in as to whether you can do this, but yeah, you just want to learn what works, learn what people like, and then try and make the most money off of that, whether that is trying to find cheaper stock, trying to make things more efficient in order to save money on how you make them. Literally, there's so many things that come into it, but you want to just be efficient and capitalise off of the things that make the most money, because then you're going to make the most money. So the next thing is be taken seriously in the industry by family and friends also. They touched on this in the podcast, so it was that sometimes I find this, especially, not so much now, but I did when I first started, not so much my family, but more so in the industry. I feel like because I was quite young, a lot of people would not necessarily expect it to be me. It can be something as simple as when I open the door and give someone a treat box or a cake, they're like, "Are you Amy?" And that's like a normal question, that is completely fine, but then they might follow it with, "Oh, I didn't realise it was you," or "Oh, that's surprising," something like that, and they might not necessarily mean it, but that used to bother me, and obviously now I don't get it at all, which I think is because a lot of my customers, they're either regulars or they know who I am before they order from me, so my work sort of speaks for itself now. But yeah, that is something that you do have to get used to, whether it's family or friends or people that don't even know you. Sometimes it can be a small comment that will bother you, but you just have to try and not let it bother you, because a lot of the time you'll prove them wrong, like I have. I feel like I've managed to prove that my work is worth the money, and I don't get any like criticism in terms of how much I charge now. People will either pay it or they won't. There's no sort of arguing about it. So yeah, you will get to that point no matter what business you're in, but it goes for things like, depending on what role you're in, you might not be taken seriously. If you're sometimes, as a female and being a manager, you cannot be taken seriously because you're in that higher role, but yeah, as long as you believe in yourself and you know that you're good at what you do, then I think you should be fine. But yeah, if it's like friends and family, I would say, like I said before, just try and prove them wrong, because they're not the one running the business, you are. They're not going to do the work for you, so whether they agree or disagree with you starting a business, no matter what it is, they're not the one that's running it. So you can, that's the whole reason you become your own boss, because you are the one that calls all the shots. So yeah, just try and believe in yourself as much as possible, because I find that that's the biggest thing that I see in people when they message me or when they just talk to me about things, is that people don't believe that it can become something. And there's nothing wrong with it if it doesn't become this big crazy business that you wanted it to be. There's nothing wrong with that. You can, you know, continue it as what it is, and like not necessarily have it grow, or you can decide to go into a different field and no longer be self-employed. There's other options, but I feel like when you want to do something, it's really worth trying. Like, there's really no harm in trying. You know, you've got to think, how much money am I going to lose? You know, I'm not going to lose that much time. Like, I might lose a year of my life, and say £1,000 for starting the business, but am I really going to lose that much? You know, it might turn into something great. So that's always my thinking. I don't like to not do anything. I always do everything that I want to do, because I don't like to miss out. And it's the whole FOMO thing. Like, what if you don't do it and it could be something that's really great? So I just think, if you want to do something, try it, because there's really no harm. Like, as long as you have thought it through, and depending on who your dependents are, in terms of money, just make sure that you're covered in that sense. But I just think we don't live to work, we work to live. So basically, if you don't know what that means, it's a very common saying, but work to live, not live to work. And that basically means that you're not born to work 40 hours a week in a job that you hate for your whole life. Like, that is not what you're meant to do. If that is what you do, there is completely nothing wrong with that. Like, I mean, you know, I come from a family where my dad worked in the same job for 40 years. It wasn't his dream job, but he was happy to do it. And that might be you, and that's completely acceptable. But I mean, I got to 19, and I had been working since I was 16, and already I was sort of like, this isn't where I want to be in life. I knew kind of straight away, and I'm from a family of self-employed people. Like, pretty much my whole family is self-employed, and I'm one of 7, so it's quite a few of us. And I just decided I want to be my own boss. I want to work from home. I want to, you know, be stress-free, to a sense. Like, obviously I have stressful times, but I don't bring my work home, because I am my own boss. I work from home, so there's a different kind of cut-off. Whereas when I was working in my accountancy jobs, I would bring it home outside of the office, so there was no separation, which is definitely not healthy. So I think being your own boss makes 1,000 times the difference. And I kind of knew that I didn't want to be, I mean, I don't think I'm probably going to retire until I'm like, I mean, unless I come into some money somehow, or like my business takes off and I retire early, I'm going to be retiring at like 60, 70 probably. So I don't want to be doing something that I don't enjoy for all that time. I mean, I get messages from people that are in their 40s, 50s, and they say, thank you so much for your videos. I've taken the leap and started my business, and I'm 54. And she said, you know, I've got kids and it's what I want to do. And I thought, why not? Because you're doing it and you're a lot younger than me. So they said, I thought maybe I'll try it, see whether I like it. And that is like, that makes my day, because it's just so nice to hear that people are doing something that they want to do, not what they think they have to. Because I think it is so common, less common now, because a lot of the time I think people are self-employed, and it's more common to be self-employed now, and like be more kind of like, I mean, there's influencers, there's all sorts now, but there's a little bit more individuality, I think. But in terms of being self-employed, it's nice that people can think, I don't want to be here in 5 years still not enjoying what I'm doing. So that's why I think it's just so important that if you want to do something, just do it. Yeah, you weren't born to work your whole life in a job that you hate. It's just, and I don't know how people do it, and I praise people that do it, because I couldn't. I feel like I'm too much of a free spirit to be able to do it. But yeah, it's just so important to me that you love your work and that you get up in the morning and you think, you know what, I actually want to go to work, I want to get up and do this, it's something that motivates me. And you'll find that your mindset is 1,000 times different if you're doing something that you love. And I know that's not very common for people, because I mean, I remember when I was really young and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I would say to my parents like, oh, I want to do this, and I had no idea. This was years ago, and they'd say like, oh, just get a job, just, you know, do something, and I'd be like, no, but I want to enjoy my work. And they used to sort of say, well, obviously that'd be nice, but it's not essential, because it's just not very common. But I feel like in the current like generation that we're in, you do have the option to do pretty much anything you want to in terms of a career. So I just think it is, why not? Like, if you have the choice to do it, then why not? Like, get your GCSEs, get your A-levels so that you have something to fall back on, and then do something that you want to do. Because I see some people like on TikTok, on YouTube, that have these businesses, and it's something that you would think that you couldn't necessarily have a business from. It could be literally anything to designing homeware, like making homeware. I saw this girl who made stuff out of resin, and she makes a lot of money off of it. And you think to yourself, that's not a typical job, but she enjoys it, and it's something that is artistic and creative. So yeah, just do whatever you want to do, basically. If you have the means to have the freedom to be able to do it, then I would 100% say do it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. I think that's all of the points on my list. So I covered everything. But yeah, I just wanted to, I know this like was a bit messy in terms of how it was, but I kind of just wanted it to be a chat. I mean, I covered everything that I wanted to cover, but yeah, I just wanted to discuss it a bit more in less of a like formal way, because I know like my starting a business video was very specific to baking, and it was also how you start a business rather than just the mindset that you need to be in and the things that you want to think about. So yeah, I just think take all these things in, consider it all, and just work out what you want to do. If you're thinking of starting a business, then I would say do it. Like, work out your costs, work out how much you need to earn, and then if you have the means to do it, then try it. If it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world, and if it does work out, then that's amazing. So yeah, I hope this was useful, and or just even if you resonated with some of the things I said, then let me know down below. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of have a chat to you guys and discuss my thoughts on taking the leap to start a business, because I felt like when I watched that podcast, because even though it's a podcast, I was watching it because it was on YouTube, I just felt like I resonated with the situation. A lot of the things that they were saying is a common reason for people starting a business, which is, you know, leaving a job, or maybe being fired or made redundant, anything like that. They were saying that that is a common reason for people taking the leap, because they kind of have nothing else. They either get a normal job or they start this business. Whereas if you're in a comfortable position, then it may be difficult for you to leave that position. But this is me coming to you saying that if you want to do something and you've thought about it for a while, then rather than kind of wishing that you did it, which is what I hate that feeling. I hate the feeling of regret when you haven't done something that you really wanted to do. And if you think that you're going to regret it in 5 years, and you think to yourself, right, when I'm 30, I wish that I had done that business that I was thinking about doing when I was 20, just do it. You might as well try it, see if you like it. If you don't like it, if you don't like being your own boss, then just go back and get another job. There is always an option. It might not be, I'm not discrediting the fact that there might not be your dream job out there to go back to, but you will be able to find something, and it might just not be it might be a temporary job, but there will be something if you had to fall back on something other than your business. But hopefully you wouldn't need to. Hopefully it would go well and you wouldn't need to have anything to fall back on. But yeah, let me know if you guys are starting businesses and if you've found my videos useful, because I get loads of messages from people saying that they're starting a business. So yeah, let me know if you're thinking about it or if you have already, because I'm just nosy and I like to know. But yeah, I hope this video was useful and you just liked hearing me chat about my thoughts in order to take the leap to start a business. It's kind of just like an open conversation, and if you have anything to add, again, comment down below, because I'd love to hear your thoughts in regards to starting businesses and your kind of mindset behind it and like your views. So yeah, let me know what you're thinking and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.